Hey, welcome back to the Blue Collar Off-Road Podcast, episode 141. I'm Graham. I'm here with Luke and Cody and nobody else. It's a little slightly smaller podcast group today. I don't know what the hell Richie was doing. And we don't have a guest, and we've got plenty of shit to talk about. Luke's been talking my ear off about some stuff he's got going on, sort of in the background. I don't think we mentioned it a little last episode, but I haven't talked at all about the shenanigans that went down at Badlands with my shit and just the general typical chaos before a long trip that I always have. So, I think we got some pretty good topics to cover here. I know I got a lot to talk about, so
Well, let's crack in. We'll start with the old stuff first. How was Badlands?
Badlands was fun.
Lot smaller crowd than we normally have, that's for sure.
Yeah, it was a smaller crowd. It was, it's rough seeing that trip become what it's become, just because I know in the past, and as you two both know as well, the trip used to be like our big thing. And I think part of the reason it's lost some of that is just we go on other bigger trips now. Like,
yeah,
it's less of a adventure, but it's still a fun trip. Like, I think that's one thing that everybody kind of is.
Can I rant for a second here?
Sure, you
please.
can.
Okay,
just
cool.
interrupt mine, and with yours, it's fine.
Yeah.
No, it fits the vibe though. What pisses me off the most about that trip becoming smaller is everyone seems to have this fucking idea that you need to go out on these large trips. We go out on the large trips because they're fun, and like we have a bunch of friends that we've made along the way that invite us out on there. But it is still super important to go to the fun local stuff because you can have an absolute blast there. Like,
and it's cheaper.
Yes, it is.
Cheaper.
Yeah,
it is so much cheaper. Like, yeah, you know what? It's what, $150 for the weekend, not counting broken parts. So like you go out there, you have a blast of a weekend, you get to go back to camp. It's one of the few properties with limited night riding in New England. Everyone needs to go out there and have a blast doing that kind of stuff because like that's the whole point of being in a club in New England is to be able to wheel. So like let's go have some fun, guys. You know what I mean? That I feel like that gets lost.
I will say though, the trails have gotten a lot more difficult. Like genuinely. So like I think some of the smaller people, which we don't have many of, might be kind of taken back now because of it. We're like, when we ran Copperhead and Fu Manchu backwards that day, we did not struggle.
A good fucking time.
It was a great time, and maybe it's because of driver skill. I'm not calling out RJ. I think he's a fantastic dude. He's still new into wheeling, but like,
and he did fucking awesome.
He
all
did.
Things considered. We tossed him into that trail, and he listened to instructions very well.
What did you toss him into? Copperhead?
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah,
like Copperhead plus some difficulty because of 42s and a lot of traffic that's been on it over the past 3 years since you've been there.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that it does suck because it is getting more difficult. It definitely revamped my love for that property. I think it's definitely something that I would love to go back to now. I'm definitely excited for Field and Forest. I forget when that is. It's like a month and a half from now.
October.
But okay, sweet. So I have a little bit of time. But yeah, so it's nice to see that because it is getting worse and worse. And I think this, like, nobody really talked about it, to be 100% honest with you. Like,
that's every property, Cody. We've talked
about
not
this. Really, though. Let's be honest.
You were preaching like, I don't like Badlands. Badlands was same old shit every year. No, it ain't.
Hill climb's gotten any harder? No, because it's a rock, Graham.
What are you talking about? That curve on Copperhead, I don't know if I walked that, but that used to not be such a technical climb. My tie rod is not happy with the rock that was in front of it because I was just slamming into it repeatedly. I didn't know what I was slamming into, so I didn't think anything of it. But yeah.
And just to clarify, are you talking about at the top of the hill, or are you talking about just a little bit past the hill?
The top of the first incline when it curves to the right, and you have to go around that rock, and there's boulders right in the middle.
Well, that's always been a bit of a bitch of a line too.
It's worse than it used to be, though. Like, I sat there for a minute, and not to like toot my own horn, but I can generally like feel out a line if I'm in front, and I kind of know the gist of the obstacle, and I knew like sort of the gist of it. But first, I couldn't get over to the right where I wanted to be because I knew you had to ride that ledge. But at the same time, you ride that ledge, but you're also in a coin toss whether or not it's going to slide you right down into that rock and jam you up, and you have to reset out of it again, or if you'll just get the magic momentum or traction to get through it.
When I ran that, I got the Goldilocks line the first shot, and everyone else had to get spotted up that year that I was there. So I can only imagine that a couple hundred runs with 42s is going to make that worse.
Yeah, I've got a video of Sean going up with the green buggy in it, and it sort of displays what the issue was perfectly. And he actually pushed that rock around, and I don't know how the hell he made it over. He didn't do anything different. It just grabbed it better that one time.
I think my favorite thing was so how there's that big rock right at the entrance for the back, like if you were to go backwards onto Copperhead, Luke?
Yeah.
So I was trying to get RJ through there. But mind you, Graham is in front of him. Graham is already on the hill, absolutely just letting this motherfucker eat, dude. Just straight rev limiter. The whole, for 2, 3, 4 solid minutes. It was fucking impressive, but it was so loud and so constant that I couldn't even tell RJ what to do. I literally was just stuck there. I was just like, just wait a minute. We're just going to wait. And then it just...
my muffler fell off.
It was... Yeah.
I was getting pissed. I'll just give you the play as far as what was going on. So I knew, it was just going to be a wheel speed to get up that hill. I destroyed that hill for everyone else. I apologize. But... essentially, I was trying to baby that motor because we all know it's about to blow up.
About to? About to?
About to.
She's blowing up, brother. She's blowing up.
No. It's just a sensor. It's fine. But I was trying to ease it, try to take it easy, and it just got to a point where I was like, nah, we're going to see how it does on limiter, sustained limiter, and it didn't seem to care. It definitely didn't sound any better when we left, but it still ran for the most part. But yes, yeah. It was bad. And my Jeep's already super fucking slow as it is. It doesn't, you really, I was not a rev limiter person until I put that doubler in, and it's the only way I can have any wheel speed. So.
But yeah, so either way, it was absolutely hysterical. He got to a point where either the motor was either overheating or he just felt defeated, so he stopped. So I'm like, all right, RJ, let's get you through.
No, I got up the first part, and I was like, I'll just wait here.
Okay, so that's what ended up happening. Well, mind you, we are getting RJ through this. He keeps diffing out over and over and over again, which I don't know. I feel like I never diff out that often. I don't know if that's just driver choice or whatever it may be.
You get an eye for it, right?
Yeah,
he doesn't know where the diff is yet. You figure it out.
In a field too, there's a few spots where I literally was timing out when his front 1, 2, 3 hit, meaning we were driving along and I was literally able to tell him when he was going to feel the tire bump onto the rock, and I could tell that he was just perplexed. How the fuck does this guy know this? What is it? Yeah. Is he a crackhead? How? And it's just I don't know. As you said,
it's subtle shit. You just pick up on that stuff.
You get a feel for it.
So this is a little cheater tip, but tell him to go about on a 30. It's what in between the two edges of the hood lines, where you've got the crease down the center of the hood. If you go about 8 inches off of that, that's where the front diff is on a 30, so he can start
You're thinking too hard. It's the autism speaking. Nobody else does that. If I think about the placement on my hood of my diff, I'd be in trouble.
Oh, I just know that if I look down the hood line and it's I have to go 3 inches over, and that's where my diff is. So I just instinctively now, looking down the hood line, know where my diff is off of that.
I've just gotten used to it, honestly. I don't know. It takes time, and he again does not have much seat time in that rig. But it was really fun because it's a challenging property. He literally went from Ma Bell twice, then to Badlands. that's a pretty, like, I don't know, especially because we went greens, Armageddon, out the green, which there's a few spots that I don't remember having certain rocks in certain areas, and he almost tipped, but I didn't want to tell him that. I was just like, yeah, keep going, faster. Yep, you're doing good. Like, mind you, his rear tire's 4 feet off the ground, and I'm like, oh, this is going shook.
Going down Armageddon or going out?
No, Armageddon's a cakewalk. Armageddon is literally the most fucking simple ride down now. There's no, like, I don't know if it's just gotten moved out of the way from, like, all the rocks, but there's, like, at the bottom how you kind of only had one line choice exiting, and it was always right next to that tree.
Now it's like a funnel.
It's not even that. There's, like, a boulder garden. Like, you could really just drive straight down it now. It's pretty...
Everyone's just dropped all the rocks off the top.
It's just a trail. It's kind of sad. It used to be kind of technical to go down that little.
Yeah, I remember that was like there was a couple of spots because that was what was that? That was I'd had the buggy or not the buggy, the fucking shitbox XJ together for what? About a year at that point, and I remember my ass puckered a few times going down there. And when I'm talking about the buggy, I'm talking about the fucking stupid ZJ because I never brought the ZJ there, right?
Well, the other thing, too, is you've been out in Tennessee so long, and the wheeling out there is literally like that trail. So you wouldn't get any butt pucker anymore because you're just so used to that. And I am, too, to an extent, because of all the trips we've done to AOP and Harlan and whatnot. That downhill is nothing to me anymore, regardless. But as far as, like, New England trails that go downhill or uphill, like, it's a pretty significant incline, decline, whatever you want to call it.
It would be fun to come up.
Oh yeah,
we have.
I think I could go up it now with
you
very
could.
little stress. Like, it's super simple. But yeah, so it was a really fun time. Like, I got to kind of sit passenger with him and just like really just help him figure out line choice. And then we got to Copperhead, and so I forgot that he has 10 wide wheels. I think it is, right, Graham? I forget.
Yep.
So he has wide ass wheels. So he DB'd what, 3 times? No, 2 times. DB'd 2 times, which I felt so. Well, no, he burped once and then.
And it was low, so he told him to fill it. Fortunately, Sean had the onboard air, so it's not a difficult repair, but never saw that with a 9-inch wheel.
Never. And like, I think I have 8s on mine, and I don't think I've ever burped,
8, yeah.
DB'd, like nothing.
Are you still on the Alcoas?
Yeah, I am.
Those are 7s.
Good.
Damn.
Anybody listening, run your shit. Your 35s on 7s. Fuck those big
any
boy
tire
wheels.
place. Any tire place that says, and they actually, when I put the 35s on the truck with the 17-inch wheels, and it's not even a 16, it was a 17. They're like, "You're gonna put these on an 8-inch, these tires with the 12-inch width on the 8-inch rim." I was like, "Yeah, that's totally fine." They're like, "No, it's not gonna. That's gonna not gonna be safe.
It's gonna crown, but it's not gonna not be safe."
Yeah, I was like, if anything, that puts more pressure on things in the right way. And after seeing RJD beat the 10s on those rocks, I was like, yeah, tire shops are wrong. Don't listen to those dudes.
Yeah,
deal with off-road vehicles.
I've been preaching that since we started the podcast. I ran my 15 7 wide, and then my 17s I've been on 8 wides. I'm not happy that I have 9 wides now on the stickies, but I didn't want to swap over those rims, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but on a 14 or on a 40-inch tire with a 13.5-inch,
I'm hoping it's okay.
That'll be fine. I don't think you'll have any issues. It's a beadlock too, right?
No, mine are not
okay.
beadlocks.
But it's just a different wheel. Okay.
Yeah.
Beadlock. Is it an actual like true 17?
Yeah.
I have rock rings for those if you want them. If you measure them to be actually 17.
I will double check on that, but I'm going to be real with you. With everything else that I've got going on, I'm going to be ordering methods.
Alrighty.
So, I've got a method release that Hot Boy teardrop beadlock, and I'm kind of in love with them.
I don't know if I've seen that one.
I'll send you a picture. So, I just think they look fucking sick, and I want to do a burnt bronze ring to go with the blue.
Ooh,
Spendy shit though.
Not really. They're $255 with the discount I get, so I'm just going with them.
Oh, yeah,
I sent it in the podcast chat.
Are those the same style? Isn't it the same style that not Colin, Curtis has, right?
No, Curtis has a different style.
Okay, he has KMCs anyways, but still,
yeah,
it looks similar. I thought.
I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, they don't look bad. Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't run them. I don't like
kind of cool.
thin spokes. I like thicker spokes, like the
AR-23s, the American ones,
or like the kids block KMCs that I got from Hendrix.
Yeah, right? Those are sick.
The circles and the triangles. I feel like I'm a kid again. You could. Which one's the circle hole? Which one's the square? Or I don't know. They're thicker spokes, and I like that. I don't know. I think I scarred myself when I saw pictures of like those dainty truck wheels with like the really thin spokes, and you see them ripped off, and the wheels just like not connected to the actual hub anymore because it just ripped the outer shell off. I
think I'm willing to take the gamble on Method to make a
Method probably makes a pretty decent one. You're right. It's not a justified concern at this point with like a beadlock wheel, but it's still there. It's in the back of my mind, so I just don't like them.
Yeah, I get that. I like those rims because they're different, and we know how I am. We'll get to that later.
Yes, we do. You're a different boy.
So, the thing that makes me the happiest about hearing all this stuff, though, going back to Badlands, is that there was someone new out there trying a hard property, and that goes back to my rant at the beginning of this podcast.
There's two. One, Eddie Class. He was out there with his Toyota buggy. That was pretty.
He's a really cool dude too, and I think he's a rockaholic, but I mean, he's down to go anywhere, and that Toyota works.
Yeah,
he was breaking some hearts on leaf springs. So there's some like rear steer buggies with a lot of money in them, and they made it. Don't get me wrong, but like Eddie made it through with his. It's a nice Toyota, but it's a piece of shit too.
It's a Toyota. It's not going to be quality.
And he was just walking shit with, what are they? They were like 37, maybe 39.
Yeah, 37 reds.
37 reds, yeah. So just not a big tire, just going on through like it was nothing.
Either way, though, like that shit makes me happy because we got to get more people to actually go out and do this stuff. It's cool to talk about it. It's cooler to do it.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you for sure. But yeah, honestly,
I'm side-eyeing you so hard right now, Cody.
Me?
Yes.
I don't give a fuck. That Jeep could burn down for all I give a shit right now.
Let me fix all my shit up, and then we can build something for you, Cody, or figure out what your plan is.
I'll come help you finish up yours too. Just gotta give me invites. I mean, let me know when you're going. But either way,
almost every day.
Good except for today.
So. Anything noteworthy happened there? No rolls?
Oh yeah.
No.
Oh no. There's plenty. Like maybe 2.5 hours of winching that my fat ass was being dragged up and down the fucking mountain running winch line. But
oh my god, there was a lot of winching up.
Oh, sorry.
The spot where the tricky spot on Copperhead we were talking about. A lot of winching up through that area. RJ's bumper, which we had finished, we skipped this part. Me and RJ it's still a work in progress at this point. I have the file that I need Marvell to cut for me so we can put it in. But we threw this bumper together, and we'd kind of been, and it was sort of my fault. I delayed it a little bit, but we had a week. And then I just got absolutely destroyed by the fact that I couldn't get metal. I couldn't get any tube for this thing without driving 2.5 hours away. And the issue that I ran into was I needed to like set up an account, and they took their sweet time because that's what office people do. To do that before I could even get the tube, I needed to have an account with them, which took like 3 days. So I had a little bit of tube on hand that we built some parts with, but the rest of it was like twiddling our thumbs, waiting for those guys to set up my account. Obviously now it's fine, but we ended up using my probably 8-foot stick of tube that I had on hand for the main part, figuring out what we wanted the rest of it to look like. Stealing a piece of tube from Mark Nibbs, who allowed us to take it. And then the next day I had to drive, and Mark's like an hour and a half away from me, I think.
No,
no. Then I had to drive 2.5 hours the next day before even starting. And this is all like once I get out of work. So I get out of work usually like 5:30. So then I actually left early because I think they closed at 6. But I had to drive 2.5 hours away to get the tube. I showed up at 6 when this place was supposed to close. Flagged down a dude and was like, the office should have this tube ready. I just need to pick it up. I paid for it already. Fortunately, they opened the door. They let me take my tube, and we went back. But I didn't get back till like probably 8 o'clock, right? So, and this was most days. We were behind by an hour or 2 or 3 or whatever it was at any point in time from when I would have normally gotten out of work. So it was just, the whole week was just constant delay because of errands that needed to be run. So that was annoying. We lost a lot of time because of that, and I definitely should have had the tube on hand like a week prior to starting this instead of during the project. It would have helped a ton. So we basically finished the bumper at 3 a.m, the day of the trip. Of course, Cody wanted to leave at 6 a.m.
Like a normal person?
No, that's not what normal people do.
Yes, yes, that is what normal people do.
Not when normal people are building things till 3 a.m. the day before. That's just not acceptable.
Normal
behavior.
People are done before that.
Normal people are boring. So
yes, we are.
So, either way, the bumper came out pretty nice. I wish I had a little more time to work on it. It's not the prettiest welded bumper I've ever done. We were welding it in a rainstorm, literally thunder lightning outside, and I'm out there underneath a like a little pop-up canopy welding on this piece of shit. Not ideal conditions, but we got it most of the way done. But we didn't have that plate. The plate I had initially had cut was way off because I designed it around my bumper, which is not what we ended up doing for his bumper. We did a lot of different stuff, but it definitely holds up because we towed on that tow point.
My God, a lot. Hold up,
we were dragging that whole Jeep by that tow point, and I mean, it's set up the same way mine is, so I knew it would be strong. But looking at it, I was like, Colin, why did you do it this way? Like, it just doesn't seem strong. That thing's fucking strong. Like, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah. Oh my God!
It's attached.
The amount of force, kids, like it wasn't rolling. Like we were literally like double diffed, dragging this motherfucker up the hill. Like there was so much tension on one side pulling the rig one way that it fully debeated the wheel or debeated the tire on the wheel. Like there was so much force, and like I didn't even think about it, but I'm sure you were dreading the whole time. Like, damn, that's a brand new bumper. This is the first test, and it's just a metric fuck ton of weight being forced onto it.
We almost didn't have the drill bit to drill it out. So to give the perspective here, the toe point is 3 pieces of, I think there's a 3/16 chunk in the middle, but the rest of it's 1/4 inch plate around this thing to beef it up to the point where it's thick enough to be considered a toe point, I guess. I mean, I guess you could use 3/16, but it would probably shear. Where was I going with that? But we welded it all together, or we hadn't welded the pieces together yet, and I asked RJ if he had an inch drill bit, because I didn't have one, because we're in his driveway. I didn't have the shop space yet or any of that, so I had no equipment to do it, so it was all just based on the things he had or the things that I bought when he said he didn't have it. And he said he didn't have one, so I was like, shit, well, we can't put your shackle through here or your D-ring through here if we don't have an inch drill bit. Fortunately, he dug around and we found a step bit, so we drilled each plate individually.
Oh my God!
Yeah, it was, like and then welded them together. We welded those fuckers in hot, but it's a nice bumper. It'll be finished hopefully this week in between all my other chaos that I have going on with prep for my shit. But it definitely it stood up, and it took a couple good hits too already, and it's not even painted yet.
I will say he was extremely respectful about it too. Like they made a deal. He held up his end of the deal, and he I didn't hear him harassing you about like when's my bumper getting done. You know what I mean? Like
a little bit, but it's fine. Like it was deserved. Like I needed to do that, and honestly, building that thing sort of kicked me back into gear because my Jeep's sort of just been doing its thing the past several months, and I haven't had a place to work on things. And right after that trip, basically, I was out for another week, but then came back and I had a shot space. So that project actually kind of kicked me back into gear and has started to get me to work on my shit again, because I've just been in a mode of I don't have the space to work, or I've got to ask somebody to borrow the space, and it's just not ideal, right? So I was sort of out of the loop as far as building shit and doing things. So it was once I finally got back into the groove of it, it was good. So it was a good project to jump back in, especially considering none of my projects now are fab related. So that was kind of nice to jump back into building things again and just get back in the saddle, I guess.
I mean, you did a hell of a job. So I mean, bravo on it. With having very little time and then getting what you did, it works. It works damn well. I mean, I wouldn't complain if I was you.
No, I think it came out pretty good. I'm okay with it.
Okay with it. It did so well too. It looks awesome. But yeah, so that was a mission. We had to, because RJ didn't have a winch, so we had to winch him from the back with multiple from the front, but with Sean being behind him. So then the whole entire time we are just going from tree to tree to tree with snatch blocks, this tree saver, this much winch with that much, adding this strap to this. Oh my gosh, I was sweating so damn bad. Within an hour, I was soaked through my shirt. It was impressive.
Yeah, Sean's fucking shitty. I don't even know what kind of winch that is, but it isn't a premium Warren winch. It's a, little sissy boy baby winch like the rest, peasants have, like me and everybody else here, I think. None of us have Warren winches, just the slow little things. And that thing was putting in work, and I worked on that thing electrically enough to know that the winch is probably not the most reliable unit in the world. It did work. It didn't give up. I'll give it that.
I had blue dye from his strap on me the whole entire time because it was I don't know if it rained the night before or whatever, but it was wet, and oh my god, it was such a mess. And then we made it happen, but god damn, was it a struggle fest. And I mean, Ryan had to winch a little bit, but he did damn well. The only person I think that didn't have to winch was Eddie in the Yoda. I think he was the only one.
No, Eddie was just, like I said, that thing just was breaking hearts. He can pretty much do whatever he wanted with it. He took that left line at the beginning of Copperhead too, which I don't think anybody else made it up.
No, everybody else had to go right side, but then again, stickies do what stickies do. Yeah. So he did a good job.
Sean tried, and I think if Sean had finessed it a little more, he might have been able to do it, but
all right, but let's be real. Sean's just getting the hang of that thing. It's a new rig, and
and there's still some adjustments that need to be done. I need to pull his seat forward about an inch because his feet can touch the pedals, but he always grinds the gears because he's too short. And the transmission needs some synchros because it doesn't it's specific. I know exactly. Having driven it, I know what's wrong with it. I've felt the problems with it. It's a little notchy, and it's too notchy for an AX15, so something's not quite right. And he wants door bars and little shit too. So there's some comfort issues with that thing, which makes it a little more difficult to drive. And he's also he hasn't wheeled a manual rig with the capabilities that one has.
He's doing good with it. I'm
really good, yeah. And honestly, it's impressed me so far. I knew it would be pretty good, but considering what it came from, and I'm sure I've said this before in other podcasts, it's a damn good rig.
Yeah, I'm just glad that he's getting out wheeling more. I'm making an effort myself to try and get out more. So I'm glad to see that.
Yeah. Common theme at the moment. And we jumped past the whole low attendance on the trip, I think.
Well, I ranted about it.
Yeah. Well, I kind of want to drag it back there a little bit.
Go ahead.
Like,
feel free, man.
Yeah.
Right. The group of people who was there this time was great. Right. It was a pretty small group. It was like a mix of like the couple of backyard built guys and a lot of rockaholics guys. Rockaholics definitely outnumbered us, which was a little upsetting, but kind of expected it. I don't know. It would have been nice to see some of the other familiar faces. Like usually there are a couple of people who had decent excuses, but
yeah, like somebody bought a house,
yeah, when you're buying a house, like I get that. Like do that. He's been, and we all know that Colin is occupied probably for the year, and that makes sense financially from his perspective. He's got work he needs to do to that Jeep. He's neglected it for a little bit. It's gonna be a trail scab at one point or another. It will fall apart. So I don't blame him for taking the year off and not stressing about the wheeling shit. But I don't know. We had a lot of people initially who were like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna go," especially from our area, Cody, and then last second turned into a bailout.
Yeah.
And and this doesn't just apply to people in our club, but like in general, like if you're gonna go to a wheeling trip and you're gonna commit something and back out at the last second, like what are you doing? Just if you're gonna go, do it. Don't be this is actually I'm sure we're not the only ones, but like the biggest thing for me when I first joined Backyard Built as a club was like, I think it stuck with me. Sean said it was something about it's a yes or no question, not a you can't, maybe's not an answer, right? You're either going or you're not, right? So figure that out and commit to it, and instead of being wishy-washy or pulling back on your word and then not going, just regardless of what the situation may be with your rig or with whatever it is, like realistically the finances behind this stuff doesn't have to be expensive. You can make it expensive, but it doesn't have to be. You can pay for the gas and sandwiches, and you'll be happy for a weekend, right? Suffer a little bit, right? It doesn't need to be this complicated thing. Run your shit half broken. I drove there with that thing knocking like it was about to blow up. It didn't blow up, and then I drove it halfway home, and then I need to get it towed, which we haven't talked about yet. But right, just do it. Like I was not prepared for that trip. My drive shaft was broken when I got there. Like thing was fucked. Somebody had a welder there. We just tacked the caps. We called it a day. Like, and it didn't blow up. It was fine. Like
that's my spare drive shaft now.
You don't have to have your rig like in this pristine condition, like perfect for every trip. Like it's just not realistic. It's never going to happen. We build these things to beat the crap out of them in the woods. Like you're going to have problems. There's going to be little issues. And if you're worried about like that one thing, and I'm a worrier, like don't get me wrong, like all those little things make me nervous, but you just have to like suck it up and do it and see what happens and then deal with the aftermath if something does happen, right? Like that's half the fun of it, is the problem solving and the stuff that comes out of it. So
you remember back in the heyday, what was it? There was that month in 2020, was it? Where like I blew 2 4-liters and still made both wheeling trips that we went on. Like you just got to put in some fucking effort, and you also have to be just okay with the fact that shit happens. It doesn't always end up being perfect, and sometimes you can't make everything be exactly what you want it to be. But if you said yes, get it together enough to go there.
You could have a really pretty rig and not go to any trips, and nobody's going to give a shit.
Are you guys calling me out, you little fuckers? Is that what I'm? No.
I mean, if you're feeling like we're calling you out, then maybe you have some soul searching to do with your wheeling habits, Cody.
You bastards. God damn it! No, I'm just fucking around. But I was like, damn, like. Man, they kind of call me out right now. Shit,
it's not just you. There's a lot of people that, if they listen, would probably feel the same way. Like it's It's not an uncommon thing. I think in wheeling, it's
but also
a big thing.
It's the timeline too. Like if you say you're going 2 weeks beforehand, and then the day before you're like, honestly, I'm not really feeling it. Like that's scummy. Like that to me is 100%. But like if you're a month away and then you're like, shit, dude, like I just can't make it happen. I can kind of respect that and understand that. But then again, a whole month is a lot of time to try to figure the fuck out. So
yeah. I mean, if you commit to something a month in advance and you realize 2 weeks out from the date of the event that you're not going to make it, then whatever, fine. Yeah, you have maybe the issue you had with your Jeep. Like I don't know. I know some of the pretty hardcore Rockaholics guys have had issues. Right? They say they're going to something. They come back from one of their other trips. And I'm calling out Mikey here a little bit. And then, he flopped the thing so hard it cracked the transmission in half when he thought it was some output from the transfer case or something. Like it was a bigger problem than he thought. And when he had actually dug into it, it was like, well, now we need a bunch of work done to this thing, so I'm not going to make it. That's a whole different story. Like if it's,
you can't fault that.
No, that's just the reality of things. Sometimes is you break your shit hard and you're not going to make that trip. It's just not realistic. But if you're like, oh yeah, my shit's already 2 weeks in advance of said trip, and then suddenly it's no, I can't go, right, because I can't get X, Y, and Z to sort itself out. Like I don't know. I'm not advocating for driving shit boxes on the road, but there's a lot of shit boxes that are less shitty than mine, and I drove mine on the road past cops, and we didn't have any issues. Like you can make it work. Like you don't need a trailer. You don't need a truck and trailer. Just valid registration on your existing rig, assuming it has DOT tires, and you're not. Yeah. No, I was gonna say, assuming you can drive it on the highway, but you can make it on side roads. I remember driving back from what was it? Oh, I can't think. Harris Mountain. With a pitman arm, the tie rod end on the pitman arm was stripped. We could wedge it down so it wouldn't come off, or at least we hoped it wouldn't come off, but it wasn't tight. I drove all the way back from, where's Harris Mountain, Belchertown, like to Marblehead, Salem, Massachusetts, essentially. Side roads with a busted ass tie rod end on my pitman arm, which is like the worst tie rod end to lose. It was a 6-hour drive, but we made it work. Like it's just that's it. And if you're not down for those kinds of rides, like maybe it's just not the thing for you. Like,
I was gonna say that's what a fucking trailer's for, Graham.
Yeah, but you spend the time or you spend the money. If you got 6 hours to spare, you don't need to spend $10K on a truck, $2K or $5K on a trailer, or whatever the price is on trailer. $3K for a 10K, $7K, something like that.
$5 for a 10K.
Yeah, you don't have to spend that. If you got 6 hours to spare, or you want to like waste your whole day / maybe night getting home, like you don't need a truck and trailer. Like figure it out. Pay the guy to get the inspection sticker. Like there's options, right? You can do it without having all the fancy toys that all the people on social media have. Just fucking do it.
So, like, I feel personally called out. I do apologize for not being willing to drive my shitbox 13 and a half, 14 hours on stickies to go up there.
Yeah, you should be sorry.
You have a truck and trailer, though.
Yeah. Yeah, well, your speech there was so rousing that I want to go drive my Jeep to AOP.
I mean,
that's not far at all.
I will. That is a longer drive. Driving to AOP that's nothing for you. That's an hour. Like an hour of easy highway driving. It would probably be easier to drive that thing than to haul it on a truck and trailer. Don't tell me I'm wrong.
You're wrong. You know why you're wrong? I've never left AOP with it running.
Well, you should probably. Now it has a good fuel pump, so now it shouldn't do that. So you should be good.
Touché, but I'm gonna lean on that laurel for why I like riding home in air conditioning.
Well, see, that's the thing is my truck doesn't have air conditioning, so either way, it's gonna be hot. It doesn't matter to me whether it's in the Jeep or in the truck. Both are loud as shit. Like you just
Yeah, but
the experience is the same, except one is, I don't know, a lot more beat up in the woods, usually. Most of the time it drives itself back home or onto the trailer or wherever it's going.
So why didn't it drive itself back home from Badlands?
It made it more than halfway. We did all the side roads, and then we got to the highway, which we got onto, you're about to hop on 91. Super easy drive from there. Like, it literally just would have been a straight shot, like 40 minutes, boom, home. But it was leaking a considerable amount of oil onto the exhaust. That had me, I mean, I've had that happen before, and I have holes in the cab, so like the burning oil will come up into the cab, and you're like, okay, we're just burning oil. It was a considerable amount. It doesn't generally concern me, but this amount was concerning me, and I needed gas. So I was like, well, there's a gas station right here, right before we hop on the highway. It's probably a good place to stop. So we came down this big hill. It did this weird thing about right at the top of the hill, I'd say, where it kind of like misstepped for a minute. Like, it wasn't super happy about running, but it was still running. I mean, there's so much rolling mass in that thing. Like, if you're moving more than 10 miles an hour and the motor stalls, it's still going to move. Like, it's still going to turn the motor over and do its thing. So I don't know if that's what happened. And then of course it was all mostly downhill. So I wouldn't have known even if it had like just barely been running. But I mean, it did pull into the parking spot that I jammed it in when we got there. So it was still running under its own power. It had a little hiccup, was burning a shitload of oil going down this hill. And it already, the thing looks hammered. Like, it doesn't look good. So I was like, let's let it cool down, get the oil a little thicker so it's not coming out of that rear main seal or wherever the fuck it's leaking from. And then we'll get some gas and we'll get back on the road. Well, we do that, turn it off. Like I said, I didn't think it not starting was not the expectation. I wasn't expecting that to be what it was going to do. I figured if it was going to stop running with the new cam sensor that I put in at AOP, and I mean, that crank sensor isn't, I think that's the one I had in my other Jeep. Like, it's not a bad crank sensor because it's a 2000 motor, so there's no dizzy. It's just two sensors in those places. I think both have an influence on the tack. I don't know for sure on the 2000 motors, but I know it's not just the crank position. Either way, it wouldn't start after that. Just wouldn't start. Tried the water on the CPS thing to see if that would, cool things down and make it run again. Nada. So we sat there for a little bit, trying to like mess with things and, get it to run. It would run on starting fluid a little bit, I believe. But not, obviously that's not a solution. So it was cutting fuel for some reason, which doesn't really tell you anything because there's so many sensors, or there's multiple sensors that can affect that on that motor. At least I think. I could be wrong. Call me out. Let me know. Tell me which sensor's bad on the piece of shit because I still haven't fixed it. But yeah, it just wouldn't run. So we sat there. Fortunately, there was an air-conditioned Taco Bell KFC combo right next to this gas station too. So RJ got gas. We sat there for a minute, filled with it, and eventually.
Wait a minute. Did you say air-conditioned Taco Bell KFC combo?
Yeah, the same company.
I did not know that. I thought
it's the same company, and sometimes you'll see them in both
so
in one
too.
building. So I got a crunch wrap. We sat in the AC, and then we got bored. We went back outside, tried to make it start. Wouldn't start. Sat there for a little while longer, and then I finally caved and called AAA and was like, "Well, yeah." And I didn't even. We waited around for probably an hour after I called them, and then they were like, "Oh, well, the driver's going to be out a little longer." I called them back, I think, because they were taking so long, and I hadn't heard anything. And they said, "Well, you can just leave it there." And of course, I'm leaving my fucking Jeep, which just is gonna be a surprise for the tow truck driver.
A nifty tool for later.
Yeah. So I had a tire in the back. I had one of Sean's junk, or not junk, but popped tires in the back. It had a sliced sidewall or something that we couldn't get to hold air. So That was in the back, ratchet strapped down out of the broken orange hatch. Like it looked it. I think I've got there. Yeah, there's a reel of it on my Instagram. Like the thing is hammered. Like it just looks
Still
bad.
missing the headlight.
Still missing the headlight. The back
yeah.
glass broken out. It's still got glass all around the edges with a tire hanging out the back. It's strapped down like it's good. So they called and when one of the guys was going to pick it up, he said, "So do you just need me to change the tire? Like, is that what the one is in the back for?" I was like, "No, buddy. It doesn't run. You're putting it on your trailer or on your truck, and you're bringing it here." So I had my Jeep delivered to me at my apartment, which was amusing. I won't lie. Yeah. So I don't know. It was doing really well, and the sensor problems you can't outrun sometimes. The CPS will get you on a Cherokee every once in a while. So I'm hoping it's cam position because that was my issue previously with the thing.
Probably just shot balls. You probably, honestly, God, it was probably only having compression because the fucking thing was so hot, and then you let it cool down for the little bit, and then just bleh, probably what happened.
So funny.
It makes a ticking noise when you crank it. Like that's not the cranking noise. It's like you start a Jeep and you hear the, but there's like a loud click, click, click as it goes. Like something ain't right.
Probably because you're hearing the valves. There's nothing going on, so you're just hearing the valves slapping back and forth.
I don't know. Either way, I still want to try to slap some sensors in it to get it moving. If I can't, end of this week, I've got to just get it towed to the shop and toss the other motor in because that's where we're at. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of was hoping that motor would die in a more spectacular fashion and not like that. But, I would say it's send off if this probably is the final ride for that motor. I'd say it was a pretty worthy send off, all in all. We hit some rev limiter. It didn't die on the trail. It just died, silently alone on the road.
It sounds so sad too. Like it's so bad.
You could hear it on the fucking highway, like over all the wind noise. That video still fucking gets me because it's so funny, just how loud that thing is. And it doesn't have a lot of power. It's definitely like my other original motor had more power than that on the highway. I couldn't go over and of course I don't have a speedo, so this is all guesstimates. Like 60 on a straight, which is definitely not what it used to be able to do. Like the earlier video of it blowing past the Dodge, I don't think you were going that fast in that one, but it was probably I had been able to build up some speed on that straight, so it looked like I was going fast. But I couldn't even do that with this motor. It just wasn't having it, and it was backfiring. The timing's all off, so I don't know. Maybe the timing chain just went, and that was it. I feel like that'd be more catastrophic, though.
Yeah, just nice throwing the fucking a rod down through the bottom of the block, or
yeah,
it would be kind of cool to see if you could lift the head enough to dent the hood. That'd be exciting. It's a fucking piston.
Well, it won't dent my hood. I've got a tube in the way.
Ooh, okay. So we break the tube and then bend the hood. That would be really exciting.
The tube. The hood's not going anywhere.
I mean, I think the send-off that we gave the 4-liter from Richie's property was pretty solid. In my shit box, that one was good. Like chunks of piston falling out of the oil was great.
Mm.
Yeah,
the
it was
new motors.
Sorry,
go.
No, I was just gonna tag onto that and just say that it was pretty impressive how far that thing actually made it, though. Like I did not think that. I'm talking about Luke's rig that day at Richie's house. I mean, impressive.
We didn't think it was actually bad. We were thinking I bent a push rod and it just wasn't moving or something like that. So we were going to drain the oil or what did we do? We pulled the valve cover off and we were like, shit, everything's working right in here. So we drained the oil and it was just going and making light thuds as the oil was coming out.
Yeah, it's pretty great. Pretty great.
And that was the engine I cracked the crank in. So, Graham, you got to step it up. This next engine, when you go to Good Evening, we're expecting
What are you talking about? I literally filled that engine with what's that junk? the head gasket fluid. It's
Okay.
like build your own head gasket. Like that was running in that motor when I was at like I didn't change the coolant. I just put it in there. It just added it to it. We were running it with literally no coolant. Like the video of it at 260 and me like wondering why it was getting so hot so quickly and would like fluctuate. Well, that's because there was no fucking coolant in the thing. I don't know where the fuck it was going. It wasn't leaking out. So it must have been eating it. It ate all of its coolant.
4 liter can have a little coolant as a treat.
Between S'more, because I noticed it I think it was the last day at S'more. It was like on hills it would go to 240 or 250 and like sit there for a minute and then it would come back down. I was like, oh, it's just an air bubble. Didn't really think anything of it. Also, it's a piece of shit motor. Like I don't really care. But I didn't think anything of it, and then I get back, and the issue continues to get worse and worse, and then it's just, I was driving back from RJ's, which is only like 10 minutes from my place, and the thing is that it's 260 just pegged on the way back, and I'm still revving the thing, sitting at $3,000 driving home. And then, there's no coolant. That would do it. Yeah, I don't know. That motor's... I'm curious what's making that fucking noise, but I mean, honestly, I think it's still strongest running 4.0, minus the ticking noise. It's just a little noisy about the fact that it's the strongest running 4.0 that I have. Yeah, the new one's got acorns in the water jacket, so that's cool. I can't get them out.
What?
There's way too many. Maybe not acorns, but there's like seeds. There's like a squirrel or a mouse has put these like they're larger than like a pellet you'd get for a BB gun, but they're all like jammed in the water jackets around the cylinders, and I'm not getting them all out. So those are staying. Otherwise, I don't think it's nearly as rusty. The intake was rusted or corroded shut. It's aluminum. So no water was getting into it after a certain point, and I pulled all the intake shit off and exhaust things off. There's no major rust in there, which was an issue on Ronald 1.0. A couple of the valves were pretty bad. Like we had to like scrape them off and then turn it over with that piston or that valve closed to get the rust out of it, which might be a contributing factor to why it's so ticky and annoyingly loud. I'm not sure. But this one, as far as the head goes, it looks like it's in a little better shape. So we just have to deal with the acorns or nuts, whatever they are.
Have you tried sucking them out with a straw?
No, but honestly, that would probably be the way to do it. If you're bored and you want to come down, bring a couple straws, and you and me can suck the nuts out of my fucking engine.
Hey, yo. Hey, yo.
Bonding right there, boys.
Oh, my Lord. That was a hell of a statement.
That is a sentence.
Holy.
You won't find that on the other off-road podcasts.
Suck the nuts out of my engine. It'll be a bonding experience. God. Okay.
I've got high hopes for Ronald 2.0. He's not getting the bling bing paint job because unless Marvell or somebody comes down with the yellow paint, I just don't imagine it's going to happen.
Yeah, you've got a week.
We got a gasket set, and I don't even get me started. I still have to make sure the tranny and the Dodge is good. It's got a 2-3 mushy shift thing that it doesn't like doing. It like delays it, and then if you go past 2,000 RPMs, 2,100 RPMs, it just doesn't shift. I'm praying that a sensor slap, a fluid change, and a filter change will fix it.
Do a band adjustment
and adjust the bands while I'm in there. But I'm not convinced that will do it. We'll see. If it doesn't do it, we're not canceling. We're just gonna go. Because if you stay in overdrive, then you don't have the problem because it doesn't have to use 2-3 in overdrive. So,
mad lad, love it.
And worst case, if it dies, it'll probably be in Pennsylvania, and we have plenty of friends in Pennsylvania who might be willing to drag my Jeep there, and I don't know what I'd do with the truck. I'd have it towed somewhere dumb. and figure it out later. But I'm hoping that this thing fixes it. It's not the fluid's not burnt. It just seems like it's having issues. It's hesitating to shift for some reason. I think something's not reading correctly, or it's not happy with something that it's reading off those sensors. I imagine it's clogged. I've put a lot of miles on that transmission since I last flushed it, and I can just tell from the dipstick that there's a lot of sediment in there. And last time I changed the fluid, I didn't know I had a filter on hand. I did, but it was underneath the seat. From the previous owner had left it there, and after I had changed all the fluid, I didn't have a filter, and I knew I just needed to, because I had done the pan. I did a deeper pan in the thing, but I didn't realize I had a filter for it, or I would have put it in. So I never did. But I've had a filter for the thing, and it was full of metal when I pulled it up before, just 47RE things. So we'll see. I'm hoping that all this changing everything out makes it shift a little better. And from what I've been reading, fluid changes on them do help with the feeling of shifts. And if I change the sensors as well, I'll check them and make sure it's not something obvious. But I think with all of those things done, we got a pretty good chance of it surviving one trip to West Virginia before I finally buckle down and get that 6-speed sorted out. No. That 47RE.
No, I wasn't saying fix the 47RE. I was saying fix the truck.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're going to fix it with the 6-speed. But I'd like to be able to sell that 47RE as a good transmission and not a piece of shit transmission, because it's been really fucking good to me for the past 2 years. And it would be a real shame to be like, oh, it's broken now. Now I can't sell it for shit. It's a core. So we're gonna spend a little money on it, see if I can make it shift good. Because I don't have the paperwork to say that it was rebuilt, but it was definitely rebuilt. Because there's no shot it would have lasted doing what it's done if it wasn't as a stock 200,000 plus mile transmission. Some work has been done. I don't know what, but it works. Runs cool. So
runs prime.
It's not a race car though. It's pretty.
No, it's not. It's pretty
damn slow.
The 6.2
it's slow
pulls
when the
away
fucking,
from it.
Yeah, it's slow when the 6.2 pulls away. Probably a boost leak. Nothing to worry about. We don't care about those.
Doesn't even just gently pulls away. Like have to pull over and wait for him.
No. See, you pull away, but if I get into overdrive, and it locks up the torque converter, then that thing fucking pulls. Third gear torque converter lock, overdrive torque converter locked. Like I can go up a hill at 80. And it will maintain the speed. But if you try to go up that hill at 70, 75, you can't do it. It'll downshift and it'll be a dog. But if you find it in that right spot, like when me and Richie were going to West Virginia last year, we were tired as fuck. It was like 7 a.m. We'd been driving for 14 hours. I was just hammering up and down those hills. And we were noticing on the hills that I was going exceptionally fast up, like, it was just chugging like a fucking freight train. But if I slowed down and wasn't going up that hill at the speed that I had been going down the other hill, then it just lost its power, and then I'd sit and it would downshift to third and do a bunch of funky shit. So I don't know. It's a enigma to me. It pulls when it wants to and doesn't when
it's a second gen. It does what second gens do.
It drives the trailer and truck slowly to your destination and spits belts when the tensioners are dead.
Multiple belts.
Multiple. It blew another one actually after that, but that one was half dead. It hasn't done it since. I checked the belt that's on it now. It's good. So
speaking
that
of
issu's resolved. We still have one spare just in case. But it's a Master Pro. Bleh, that'll only last 4 hours.
My 4-liter spit a belt, so that was funny.
That's impressive.
Yeah. We'll get to that though.
Yeah, well, I think that's most of what I have. I know we haven't even talked about your surprises, Luke, but I don't know what else is there on my list. The Jeep needs a motor. I need a tie rod because mine's bent to shit.
I noticed that yours got.
It's bad.
It's pretty bad.
It'll be fine.
No, it needs to be unbent because it's unthreading my hydro fittings. I leaked out a lot of power steering fluid at Badlands, and then fortunately we had half a bottle, and I was able to tighten the fitting, and it drove on the road fine. But I had flashbacks to Colin's experiences with hydro fitting that was getting loosened and driving on the road. It's not pretty. Like, don't do that. Don't be dumb. But it doesn't have. It probably still doesn't have a lot of power steering fluid. I should probably make sure it has enough of that. Yeah, but it's going. It drove home till it didn't, but it wasn't power steering related. So I don't know. There's a couple things to sort out. None of it's like critical. It's not like I'm reinventing the fucking wheel on the thing like I have in previous trips. So just motor, call it a day. Pray that Ronald 2.0 runs as strong as Ronald 1.0 until it doesn't. Oh, I need a muffler too, because obviously that's gone. But
yeah, we have no idea where that went though.
No,
like, he started the trail with it, and then ended the trail without it, and then in the certain section where we feel that he lost it, there's no, like, it's gone, nowhere.
We looked. I walked up and down a good chunk of that trail looking for the thing, and I couldn't find it. And mufflers aren't easy things to lose. Like, you don't just lose a muffler. Yeah. It's gone. I don't know where it went, but I was kind of upset because I've had that muffler a long ass time, and I wanted to re-weld it back on. I'm so used to the way it sounds. Every time I get a new muffler for that thing, it sounds awful until it gets crushed, and then it sounds good again. But
yeah, you could pre-crush this one.
I mean, I could, but that seems
definitely could.
That seems ungenuine. Like, I want it to be a genuine rock crawler sound, not like mall crawler with a hammer sound. Like, that's boring.
I didn't know
Anybody can smash their muffler with a hammer. It takes some real skill to artisanally dent that thing on boulders for 4 years to make it sound like that. It's just not the same.
So, oh, I know.
Doesn't have the, the crying screams for help when it revs up. Mm-hmm. I get it, after it gets beaten over rocks for a long time. Understandable. Like, you definitely get used to that tune.
It's overdue for an exhaust in general. It hasn't had a full exhaust since last year's AOP trip, or the meet and beat event. Like, that's when I threw the exhaust on, and I think it kind of chewed it up pretty quickly. And then I ended up cutting a bunch off, and it just, downpipe dumping it out of the muffler, which, while it worked, it was kind of sloppy. There was no hangers on that thing. It just flaps around. So if it'd be nice to get like 2 hangers on it and maybe have it.
My exhaust has 1 hard mount hanger, so you're good.
I have one as well.
Fortunately, like, it's a 4.0, like, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it's just going to crack
incredibly. Yeah, it's not incredible. No. That's only for you, like, 99 down peasants. 2,000 up, you have a really nice dual cast manifold, and then a Y pipe.
Yep.
With adjuster thingamadoos that lets it wiggle a little bit, and then you have it connect to the actual exhaust pipe. So I got plenty of flex on it. It doesn't care.
Yeah, whatever.
It'll be fine.
The exhaust I took off the 99 motor that I'm retrofitting into fit the 2000 stuff. Came off with a very cracked manifold, and I kind of chuckled to myself, like, haha. Old person Cherokee things. my head might crack, but your manifolds crack. I'll take it.
Yeah, actually, that's funny because now that I think about it, like, my manifold's perfectly fine, but a few others that I know definitely do. And it is because of that year change where they swapped out the different manifold style?
Yep, because you've got a 2-piece manifold, right? It would flex or something. It would stretch or compress, and it would wear one of the sections out because it was all connected. It had nowhere to go, but with the 2-piece, I guess they fixed it so it's got a little more flexibility in that sense. So I don't know. I've never had a problem. Like, I was gonna change it out for like a something fancy, and then I looked at it and looked at the cost of fancy exhausts, and then looked at the cost of a factory 2000 Cherokee Y pipe without the catalytic converters, because that's the other thing you have to watch out for is the cats on those. They heat the engine bay up like fucking crazy.
Yes, they do. Yes, they fucking do.
Yeah, you're better off just doing the delete. You can get the pipe for it, and you don't need those lower O2 sensors. Mine are just there for looks. I don't think they do anything anymore. Half the time they fall out of the bungs.
Yeah,
they're just dragging on rocks down there, and I just screw them back in.
Crazy. Yeah, I will say, ever since I removed the carpet in my rig, it is ridiculous how fucking hot that floor gets. I never, like, I mean, I've been in vehicles with no, like, carpet before, but like something to do with that Cherokee, it just gets toasty.
Yeah, you got to get some Kilomat in that thing. It helped run a shitload. Trans-tunnel area is where you want it.
Yeah, of course.
Especially with the auto, that's not helping you either. You got a lot of stuff getting really fucking hot right in your floor.
Yeah, or just, cut out the floor and then there's nothing to get hot.
Well, then
mind blowing. It's a heater.
Yes. Actually, no, that's not the way to do it, because the more holes you have in the floor, the more heat you're getting from every drivetrain component that creates heat going straight up at your legs and feet. Played that game. It's a heater regardless. But yeah, all right, Luke, we're ready for your
autism.
Yes, hit us with the
well, let's see. So on the old Cherokee, I picked up a bunch of Spicer. What are they? The new Life U joints. They've got like the blue-purple banding on them, so that was cool. So little secret that I'm gonna let out here. If you order axle shafts through Tom's Bronco Graveyard, they're not marked as Yukon, but they show up with Yukon tags, so that's cool.
Huh.
So I got a set of 30 spline chromos, another set of hubs. We're doing the basic maintenance stuff on the Cherokee to get that done.
Are Yukon parts a flex?
I mean, when they're $100 or $120 for a chromoly stub shaft, I'm not gonna bitch about it. Like,
does it like say you? What do you mean? It says
like the tag says Yukon. It's got a tag on there that says part number and all that because it's not carved into the axle shaft.
Oh, gotcha. All right, sorry, don't mind me. Just being salty about Yukon parts.
Yeah, whatever. I'm gonna buy their axle shafts for $125 a piece.
Yeah, I mean, if you're selling them that cheap, I mean, doesn't surprise me. All their other parts are fucking cheap.
Yeah. Anyways, so I've got that coming up. I built up a brand new set of bump stops, which I think is kind of cool. I made them out of the UWMP material or whatever it is, that stuff that everyone uses for slider material. I found a chunk of that at work. And
UHF, UHW.
UHW.
The only problem is that's not really bump stop material though. How, like, it's hard, Yeah.
It's the hard stop on my front bumps. I've got the Daystar uppers to go in there. So we're just swapping because I cracked the like little dildo looking one that comes off of the coil bucket, so we're swapping that out, and then I'm changing out the lower section because the hockey pucks have finally given up after 4 years.
I should probably change my bump stops now that you say that. That one is getting destroyed.
Yeah, you should probably fix that. So a lot of little basic maintenance stuff. And then I sat down under the rig with Logan and we rebuilt my shifter linkage assembly for the 241 OR. And now it uses 3/4 of the throw of the in-cab lever, but it stays away from the drive shaft. So I'm really happy with that. And I will say that doing my motor mounts has to be one of the worst fucking jobs that I have done on that rig ever. Like,
really?
Yeah. The Iron Man motor mounts are high quality product. I'm not shitting on Iron Man for that. They're a little slow to get there, but whatever. Doesn't really matter that much. They showed up, they went in. But to get them to go in, we had to put the plates on the engine, which requires pulling the alternator, pulling the power steering pump bracket, pulling the factory motor mounts, pulling the ignition coil out of it, and just like bolting up this big plate to the engine, which super cool, super helpful. Should keep everything where it needs to be. But to get them into the Jeep was a motherfucker. We got it to the point where, like, we had to pick the engine up, unscrew the frame side motor mounts, cock them, connect it to the block, and, like, when I say lift the engine up, because of how high my transmission sits now and everything, I have, like, 3/4 of an inch to the top of the tunnel. So, like, wedge it up, and then kind of line the holes up, but like it didn't want to line up, so we had to put an M18 on there once we got the nut to start threading on, and just hammered them on, and you could hear the unibody creaking open as it pulled the engine down. So that's great. But the shifter does not move. I don't know if you remember from when you were playing automatic, Graham, how it would kind of dance around. It does not do that anymore, and it does not pick up when you load it up. Like, it's to the point now where you can put it in first, and it will drive through the brakes instead of picking the motor up, which is kind of cool. It didn't used to do that. It used to pick the motor up and make a horrible clunking noise, so that's great.
I don't know. I didn't notice it. We were just chilling. I was not focused on the drivetrain movement. I was more just focused on making sure that our automatic shifts were smooth as butter, unlike the 47 RE.
Fair enough.
That 2-3 shift.
Standard. When you do the 302, what are you planning on doing for the transmission?
Well, about that.
Have we gotten there yet?
I didn't want to dig in, but I don't know. I didn't know.
I guess we're going there.
All right.
So yesterday I bought a 302. After a lot of debating as to what engine I wanted. But transmission, to answer your question, is going to be an NP435 to a 205, no doubler.
I'm not retarded, so I don't know these numbers and letters put together. So is it an auto or is it a standard?
It's an old school granny gear, low range, 4-speed manual.
Ooh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the 205 is the gear-driven transfer case Graham has.
Ooh, so heavy boy too. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Just a minor repower upgrade, nothing really to talk about there.
No, that's exciting though. I mean, I'm definitely excited to see how it does because I don't think many people do. I know I believe there's a TJ or two that's rocking the 302. But other than that, I don't really know many.
It's not a common swap. The LS is a far more prevalent motor these days, which is how I ended up with the 302, coincidentally. So I guess if we want to go into how I settled on a 302, we can go down that path.
Yeah, hit us with it.
All right, so I'm looking at the upgrades for the future, right? And so an LS around here in good condition without stupid high mileage, I'm sure Trail Trash might be able to help me find one cheaper or whatever. But like just looking like I want to go grab this, I don't want to have to drive to the other side of Alabama to get it. $900. Okay. That's not reasonable, but it's not unreasonable, but it is what it is. So $900, not worried about that. All right, let's start searching for a transmission. So the Chevy Granny Gear 4-speeds had a double or a what they call a figure 8 pattern. So the bolt holes are 2 circles, and it really only works with the Chevy pattern driver's side drop stuff, which obviously with the Ford front axle doesn't really work out for me. So I'm looking for either an NV 4500, and to find one in good shape, you're talking over $2,000. Possibly closer to 3 if you're trying to be quick.
Oh, around where you are.
Yeah, around where I am. So whatever, like we'll figure this out. Now the transfer case stuff, like, all right, well, I've got the 241 OR. I don't know what I'm going to do with the 241 OR. It does not seem to make sense to me to put a Dodge transmission in, and the ones that I looked at had the shorter first gear to be able to adapt the 241 OR over. So I'm like, all right, well, this is kind of off the table. Finding the right year SM465 is just not happening. You know what I've seen a shit ton of? Ford Granny Gear 4-speeds with 205s for like $650, $800. That's a transfer case, the engine, or not engine, transfer case transmission together for like less than the cost of buying the Chevy transmission. Alright, fuck it. We ball. I wonder if I can find a 5.0. So I got on the old Facebook, and sure enough, county over from me, 91 roller rocker 5.0 high output out of a manual Mustang, ready to go, $400, pick it up. And I was fucking shocked when I got there by how small that engine is. Compared to an LS, it looks like an itty bitty dwarf engine. It's wild. And in my research, I was looking into it. There's a lot of paths that you can go, and I suppose I'll ask for some input in a few minutes because I'm still trying to decide. But the engine management's there. It's not something that's hard to find. Holley makes a Terminator. You can put a carbureted intake and run a Sniper if you wanted to go to an old school distributor. There's a bunch of companies out there that make wiring harness kits for them. So the standalone engine support is there. And, it seemed like a really good fit for a motor for what I'm trying to do, because in factory form, it makes 275 horsepower. So it's in the same ballpark of horsepower as the small LSs. Like, it's a little less than the 5.3, which is like 300 if I remember right, or 295, and the 4.8's like 465. So it's right in the middle there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that's still, 125 more horsepower than a Cherokee? Realistically?
So what's the actual like length or depth, I guess? Like, how much space are you going to gain between the radiator and the engine?
It's you ever see a 2.5 Cherokee?
Yeah, about the same.
Give it another 4 inches on the front.
Wow, that ain't bad.
Yeah, it's an itty bitty fucking motor. And the engine that I picked up came with a set of really, really shot balls, manifolds, and a set of block huggers, but they're all rusted to shit, and they've been like hammered and apparently been in another car. So I think I'm going to replace the headers. But even then, they are not all that wide. Like, you could probably get this thing to clear a factory 4-link with a little finesse.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive. Okay. Damn.
And, I'm not going to claim it's as good as an LS because I don't fucking know. I'm not an engine guy. This is just something that, like, appealed to me. And I know that motor has been around for a long enough period of time, and I know it used to be very popular to swap into CJs and YJs back in the day, carbureted. So I'm like, all right, whatever. And I was doing some research, running a E303 cam, which I mentioned last episode, is that's an easy 55 to 75 horsepower depending on the intake that you put in there. So you can end up with, through a $300 cam, set of push rods, springs, and all that, on the high end at 350 horsepower for an engine that's lighter than an LS and almost 200 pounds lighter than a dressed 4.0.
Wow. I'm impressed.
Yeah, that's where this, like, it was kind of a TISM, like, direction to get here. But I'm super excited about it, and I'm looking at some of the old school setups. I'm thinking about converting it to a carbureted intake. Notice I did not say carburetor. Carbureted intake, and running a Holley sniper kit on it. They released that 2.0 version. With that 2.0 version and a dual air gap intake in that cam, it should be somewhere in the 375 horsepower range.
Dude,
and fully standalone.
That ain't a number to scoff at either. 375 will be fun as fuck.
Yeah, realistically, that's going to put my horsepower to weight somewhere. Let's see, what's the shitbox weigh? So if I take the nose off the shitbox, figure we chop 200 pounds off of it when we cut the nose off and retube it. I'd say that's a fair number.
Okay.
So we'll call it 5,400 pounds, 375. 14 pounds to 1 horsepower compared to 5,400 compared to 36.
Jeez.
So
yeah, it'll be spicy.
Yeah, I can already make that thing spicy as it sits. And then I suppose that we should talk about the fact that the wiring is all coming out entirely from the shell. So.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it's getting gutted down to literally nothing.
Sweet, so you'll be able to like tuck everything and make it look pretty.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and do that. The other thing that I'm gonna try and do is either a painless kit or just a simple, like, have you seen the Switch Pros?
Yep.
Run a Switch Pro for literally everything, and then I'm gonna run the standalone wiring harness on a entirely separate harness that's going to go in between the seats, so that way if I go to roll it, all I gotta do is reach down and slap the kill.
That'll look good too. Then you won't have any wires hanging above like the dash or nothing either. That'll look really fucking nice.
Yeah, and then for the gauges, I'm gonna go with one of the Autometer sells the 5 hole dash basically. So center is going to be the tack, oil pressure, this, that, the other thing. And I ended up needing, oil pressure, coolant temperature, voltage, and I'm putting a clock in the other hole. Just because, it doesn't have a fucking radio, so fuck it. And then the tack. So it's going to be super clean, comparatively. And the other option I have would be to go with Holley makes that the digital dash. I could just run the digital dash in a 3D printed cutout on the original location.
Are you gonna keep the same steering wheel, or are you gonna upgrade to maybe like a
No, that's getting upgraded most likely.
Sheesh, that thing's gonna be sweet, man. It's gonna be like a whole new fucking rig.
It's gonna be at that point, it's going to be a whole new rig. It's not going to be the same shitbox that it was. That's all I'm going to say there. I hit a point where I got fed up. If I'm cutting the nose off, there's no fucking point in keeping the 4-liter. If I'm not keeping the 4-liter, there's no point in swapping over, in my mind, to something like a 4-cylinder that I could adapt to the AX15. When I started looking at the potential horsepower that I will be putting through it, I don't know with my driving style if I trust an AX15 to hold up to that much horsepower. Well, if I'm getting rid of the AX15, I might as well get rid of the 241 OR. I don't need overdrive, so whatever.
Yeah, it's gonna do the typical XJ spiral where it's like, oh, if I'm doing this, I might as well do this. If I'm doing this, might as well do this, and then it's just gonna go until it is a whole new rig.
Yeah, well, it's why do I need to keep any of the factory wiring at this point? I can literally set the blower motor to high and run that on a switch off the Switch Pro, and just all I care about is that the heat on my rig is still a manual adjuster, so like
It is?
yeah. There's like a little lever and switch and all that. It's not electric.
Wait, what? You have the slide? You don't have a dial?
No, I've got the knob, but the knob is just like a knob.
It's not electric or vacuum operated?
No. The
Damn. That's
the
old
only
school.
thing that's vacuum operated is for the vent controls, but I'm just going to open that up so it's going to blow at the feet and blow at the driver, and then block off the rest. So it'll just kind of be a simple, like get some warm air blowing at me when it's cold out, otherwise whatever. And when the nose comes off, it's getting dove nosed, it's getting coilovers. I don't know, I'm debating even throwing an 05 plus under it.
No, at that point, might as well go a 9, you fucking pussy.
I blew way too much money already.
All right, it's fine. Maybe I'll convince you later.
I want to go to a 9, like really, really badly want to throw that thing on a set of dual 9s. I can't throw that much money into that project as it sits. Right, I'm looking at $1,000 in engine management alone. I'm looking at another $500 in performance parts. I don't know what I'm doing yet for my power steering and for the alternators and all that. So I will keep you updated as we get there. And I'm trying to also keep it where I can run a standard belt, which is another little bit of a weird thing that like LS is, if you go to order a pulley kit, they'll tell you exactly what belt to use. With this, I'm going to have to be like, all right, well, I'm going to go grab this belt. Oh, it's too long. Let's try this belt. You know what I mean?
It sounds like a process for sure.
It's going to be a process, and it's not going to be the same rig when it's done. It's just going to be totally different overall, and I'm excited for it. And the goal is, with all the work that I'm looking at doing, I've got the trip to Good Evening Ranch, I have a trip to Stony Lonesome, and then I have a trip for, I got invited to go with Walt's Crawlers to Kentucky, so I'm looking at going there in November. After that, I think that we'll take the rig down, and the goal will be to have it back together for the meet and beat.
Fuck yeah, man. Sounds like you got a whole good process going on.
Yeah, I'm fucking ecstatic about it. I don't know of anyone else that's done the Ford swap. I think that that's going to be an interesting little one to post up on Club XJ. I can't wait to ask which sensor I need to replace to get rid of the choppy idle.
Like, man, I don't know. My block just looks really fucking different lately. Anybody know what's going on with this thing?
Dude, I cannot get over the fucking, like, how small that fucking engine is after having worked on 4 liters for so long. Like,
oh, they're cute. Yeah, they're little tiny things. It's just not long. I mean, like,
it's not long, and
pistons are tiny too.
It's smaller than an LS too. So like, Brian, we did the podcast with him.
Mm-hmm.
He lent me the engine stand, or not the engine stand, the engine lift, and the engine is currently at his house while we're clearing out some stuff at Logan's to get my Jeep in there. And he's got like this lip at his driveway to push it in. So the guy I bought it from threw an engine stand in and whatnot, and we had put it on the stand and we were going to roll it in, and we didn't realize the lip was there. So, like, we're trying to get this thing to roll up there. It doesn't want to roll. I end up just picking up the front, like wrapping my arms around the engine and just lifting it up and moving it over. The thing doesn't weigh shit with it being stripped down. Like, I don't know. I'm excited.
It'll be cool. It'll be different. You don't see a lot of those.
No, you don't. And I wanted to keep the manual. If I'd wanted to go auto, it would have been a lot easier to have gone LS. But being that I'm an idiot, and Timmy Clark is telling me I'm an idiot, so we know it's true this time. I just wanted the manual. I don't know if
one idiot calling another idiot an idiot doesn't immediately make.
Takes one to know one, Graham.
Fair enough.
That's all I'm gonna say. That's a
generally. I feel like you kind of have to not be an idiot to call someone an idiot, but
in regards to putting a manual in after doing that type of engine swap, I'll give him credit because he tried like a motherfucker with that SM465.
Well, yeah, because it's a dump truck transmission. I've never seen anybody put one of those things in and like them. You got to put something with like good synchros in it that shifts like a fucking car. Otherwise, you're gonna have a bad time. Who would have thought dump truck transmission in a situation doesn't work that good?
I'm putting a dump truck transmission in, but
God,
I have a plan to address the shifter stuff, and I thought that this was kind of nifty. So they don't make a short throw kit for those, right?
Makes sense.
No, because it's a dump truck.
Exactly, it's a fucking dump truck.
So I remember seeing on. Actually, you know who had a dump truck transmission and liked it? You remember that green Comanche that was running around with the LS in it? It was the guy on 42 Bog Dogs.
Yeah, Dave. What's his face? He'd be a cool guy to have on the podcast.
Yeah, I was just thinking that we gotta hit him up. He's smart.
He's smart. We should have one.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not very smart, so
he builds cool shit.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you got to do if you want to get on here. Build cool shit and be smart. But anyways, no, it's not. I was trying here, Graham. I was trying. He built a tab and took a Heim, threaded the shifter linkage onto the end of the Heim, and then he welded the tabs into the floor to move the shifter back because of how far forward it was mounted. And by doing that and cutting off the original truck shifter, he was essentially able to make a short throw kit, and it was like a fairly nice shifting dump truck transmission.
Yeah, that's actually a common thing in the Dodge truck manual swaps. Ask Colin about it because you can get. Granted, you can build one probably just as easy or for less money than you could buy one, but they make kits for the Dodges with same deal. It's Heims to a bar that goes to a second shifter that lets you shift the main one without it being in the same place. So definitely a thing. And if you look at some of the Dodge manual swap people who are in like the newer trucks, because I think just the way the console is set up, it just doesn't work or something.
Yeah.
That would be where I would look, and you could have it at any length. You could be shifting the thing from the back fucking seat, from what I understand. So,
yeah, that was where I was going with it. Is I want my shifter because I'm going through all this fucking hassle. I want to be able to plop down, have my shifter.
We'll put a seat in the middle of the back, and I'll sit back there with the shifter, and you can drive.
Yes, awesome. What do I do when you're not around? Because I do sometimes pretend
Morgan can shift. Morgan can shift.
True. Hey, we're about to roll. Could you please grab reverse? And she'll just look up with me petrified, like, you jackass. But I'm thinking that should help to alleviate some of the problems, put some better ergonomics in there, and then while I'm at it, I want to throw a hoon handle on the opposite side of it. And in front of the seats, so I can grab that. And because I'm running Holly, I'm going to run a 2-step button on top of the hoon handle just for, shenanigans. I don't know. That's all I got. Pretty minor upgrades.
Damn. Minor upgrades, you fucking dummy. That sounds like a hell of a project.
Whatever. It be what it be. And I'm just glad that, like, all of the parts that I need to adapt the transmission, which I still haven't bought yet, but I bought the motor because it was there and it was the right price. It's literally like run a 92 flywheel with a 78 clutch or an 87 clutch, I'm sorry, and here you go. It'll all adapt. Your crank sensor will work. There's no fucking weird bearings. Pick the 92 or the 87 pilot bearing, throw it in there. And being that it's an external slave transmission, or an external transmission for shifting it, Novak makes a hydraulic adapter that it's a 3/4 bore, so it matches the Cherokee Master perfectly. But it's threaded for NPT, and it's got the bleeder on top, so like I should be able to bleed it without even having to do anything stupid. Just
Honestly,
instant.
bench bleed it. I would not bleed that thing in the fucking truck.
All right, noted.
I having dealt with the internal slave bleeding process, you will never get all the air out. It'll always run, or it'll always shift like shit. Maybe I was just a dumbass, but I never had good luck with that thing.
That's why I was.
Slave.
It's an external slave.
Yeah, I know. So just if it's external, just unbolt it, take it all out. The little inserts for those are really easy to do, like you said, especially if it's MPT. And just bleed it on the bench and then install it. Takes, maybe an hour more, but well worth it. You don't want to be messing around with the shifts not working right.
I was just gonna vacuum blade it and call it good, but noted.
You'd be surprised. It might work, but I would
be skeptical. Either way, I'm excited about it. It's gonna be cool. I like seeing the fact that some old iron is going to make a comeback with a modern twist. Like, it's going to be weird as fuck to run a carbureted intake, but have the digital dash right there displaying everything, including the temperatures and shit.
But with a carburetor, isn't it going to, because it's not going to have injectors, right? It'll be injected.
If he's running a sniper,
yeah.
It'll be it's like the J20, right? It's
like forced,
the sniper system just goes on top where the carburetor would go, and it has a single injector or something like that.
Yeah,
just sprays fuel.
Aren't you still gonna have issues though? Because
no fuel bolt, no float, no nothing.
Nope. It takes 55 psi off the fuel rail, and it just runs it like a normal injector. But instead of it being a carburetor where it's got the black magic that carburetors are, it's got 4 injectors that sit over the or that spray in past the butterfly valves.
Yeah, but but then again, it's still like, I don't know, it's still a vacuum to suck the fuel in once it goes into the intake.
That's how Cherokees work. It's just more direct. It doesn't have to go through the whole intake, right? It's not like you're direct injecting the fuel. It's just sitting there going in the very end of the intake.
I know.
For each cylinder.
If he's up on a hill, the rear cylinders are going to get way more fuel than the.
No. That's not how atomized fuel works.
Yeah, it's already atomized, so it's going to be something.
It should work fine.
The other thing is,
experienced it. Unless your O2 sensors aren't working right, then those things do all sorts of funky shit. They'll still run. They'll still fucking run. The J20, I don't know how the fuck that thing runs sometimes. That computer is all fucked up. It doesn't know what the hell it's doing half the time because it's getting bad readings from that O2 sensor. And it still makes it work. It was running with the timing so out of whack, it was making the headers fucking glow. And it was still running like a top. Like, drove it to main and back. Did a bunch of other shit with it. Never had a problem. Just cooking the headers.
Yeah, and the other thing is I might go with the Terminator, which would keep the multi-port. I'm just tempted. There is the horsepower scaling side of things that is tempting, is how I will put it. The carburetor stuff, it's cheaper to make more horsepower if you use carburetor intakes compared to the original high output intake.
Yep. And because it's a 302, you can probably get plenty of those.
Yeah, no one fucking uses them than
nobody wants them. You can get those motors for $10 a dozen.
Dude, it's wild. I was talking with Logan, like, if we ever decide that we actually really want to go down the horsepower chasing rabbit hole, just buy a fucking truck block for like $200 and take it apart and build that if I wanted to go for 500 horsepower. But I don't know if I really want to go for 500 horsepower. I've been preaching not going excessive on the horsepower forever. I should probably live by that. So that's where I'm at. I think that a 300 horsepower, 350 horsepower power plant is more than enough in the majority of trail rigs because it still leaves some level of room for error, right? Like, if you have 500 horsepower and you're flogging it, it's just going to break whatever binds up the second that it binds up.
Alrighty. I don't know, man. I'm excited to see you get in that rig and get out rocking on the trails. I think it'll be a hoot.
Yeah. You got anything, Cody?
Nope. Not shit. Just trying to save money, be a responsible adult. It's not working, but I'm trying.
That's fair enough, man. I'm not going to fault you on that.
Nope. Keep going up. Pay stays the same. It's fucking whack.
Dude, I fucking feel that.
No, we're coming to a clear. I'm thinking within the next few months, things should start clearing up, and I can get back into normal shit. So it'll be a good time.
Yeah, awesome. And then snow's coming too in a couple months, so you'll be able to start making overtime on that too.
Hell yeah, I cannot fucking wait. It was actually funny, the Instagram post that I recently put up where I put that I miss snow and endless work days. Dude, so many people were just like, it's summer, be happy it's summer. And I'm like, yeah,
no. Winter, and you can work all day and all night through the winter. It's so nice. The temperature is perfect. You won't catch me out in the sun in the summer. Fuck that shit. I don't want to work in 80, 90, whatever degree temperature it is.
Hell
It's getting hotter. Give me the winter. Not gonna be much of that anymore. I gotta enjoy it while it lasts. Decades to come.
I'm excited because, like, after trash bin, I'm thinking that the rig will be going down and it's going to be like 35, 40 degrees outside.
Trash bin?
Don't ask. It involves Frankie. And,
okay.
He named the event. It's the Waltz Trash Bin. So I'm going to that. It's going to be a good time. We're going to try and lose the Cherokee in the woods so I don't have to 302 swap it. Don't worry about it. And on that note, anyone got anything else?
No, I'd say we've done pretty damn well for, just the Tree Amigos podcast.
Yep.
I got nothing. I think we covered all my shit.
All right. Well, then in that case, dude, just go out there and wheel. Like, it doesn't have to be fucking perfect. You're going to have a much better time if you're out there than if you're in the garage. And, like, enjoy the sport. Bring someone new out, help them throw their rig together, and keep it going.